Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty universal, overcoming
Yeah,
challenges.
how we actually manage to push through difficulties.
Exactly. And you've shared some fascinating sources. We've got a study on addiction mindsets,
Right, how beliefs about addiction itself play a role.
then an article looking at discouragement, but through a faith lens.
Mhm.
Plus, insights into cognitive biases, those, mental shortcuts.
Our blind spots, yeah.
And finally, stuff on resilience, and also this interesting distinction between quitting and, well, giving up.
It's a great mix. Different angles on a similar core problem.
So our mission here is really to dig into these, pull out the key ideas, and help you understand what drives us. Why do we keep going sometimes and other times not?
It's fascinating how our own minds are central in all these different perspectives, from the scientific to the more personal development side.
Totally. Okay, let's dive right in with that study. It's called Addiction Mindsets and Psychological Processes of Quitting Smoking. And the main idea, it's basically this. If you believe addiction can be overcome, you're actually more likely to, well, succeed in quitting.
So your fundamental belief about the nature of addiction matters. They call this the addiction mindset.
Right. And they even made a scale to measure it. They asked people things like, do you agree with a person's addiction can never fully leave them?
Ah, okay. That's a very fixed view.
Versus something like, people can change how addicted they are. They surveyed smokers, but non-smokers too.
That's smart, including non-smokers.
Yeah.
It helps isolate the general belief itself, separate from the immediate struggle of trying to quit.
And here's the really key finding. They found a strong link between believing you can change.
The growth mindset view.
Yeah, exactly. A link between that belief and the psychological stuff needed to quit, like motivation, self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy, that's your belief in your own ability to actually do it, right?
Right. Your confidence you can succeed, and also commitment to quitting. And get this connection held up even when they factored in how much people smoked or how many times they'd tried to quit before.
Wow. So it's not just about your history with smoking, it's about this deeper belief.
Seems like it. It suggests this core belief really influences your ability or maybe your drive to overcome it.
That really highlights the power of these internal beliefs, doesn't it? If you fundamentally think this is inescapable, well, that thought itself becomes a huge barrier.
Definitely. But if you believe change is possible,
Then that belief could be a really powerful engine for motivation. Makes sense.
the researchers even boiled it down to a short, like 6-item scale just for nicotine addiction.
Oh, interesting.
Practical.
Yeah, it had statements like, you can't really change how addicted you are, the fixed side. And if they keep trying despite setbacks, people can get over their addiction. That's the growth side.
Okay.
And basically, people who scored higher, meaning they had more of that growth mindset about addiction.
They believed change was possible through effort. They were just more likely to have, positive quitting outcomes, better results.
So it gives us a tangible way to think about these mindsets, maybe even assess them. A short scale like that could be, well, potentially really helpful for people, identifying where they stand.
Now, this whole idea, the power of belief, it's not just in scientific studies.
Right.
There's this article from Joyce Meyer Ministries, How to Deal with Discouragement. It kind of echoes this, but from a faith angle.
Okay, so a different perspective, but maybe a similar theme.
Yeah. It basically says, look, when you're going after a goal, you will hit roadblocks. Setbacks happen.
Sure, that's life.
But it argues that your thoughts and beliefs about those setbacks, that's what decides if you get stuck or keep pushing forward.
So again, it's about the internal response, not just the external event.
Exactly. The article talks about not buying into the devil's lies, negative thoughts that discourage you.
Right, the internal narrative.
Instead, it pushes for focusing on positive, empowering beliefs, finding the silver lining, seeing setbacks differently. A reframing technique, essentially.
They use examples from their own ministry history, like losing a TV contract, which seemed bad,
Yeah.
but it actually led to them reaching more people later on. So a perceived defeat became a stepping stone.
Okay, so turning negatives into positives, or at least seeing the potential for that.
The core message is really maintain a positive mindset, root it in faith if that's your framework, believe you can overcome, and don't let discouragement just stop you dead in your tracks.
It offers a clear strategy then for actively managing those feelings of discouragement, viewing setbacks not as endpoints, but as maybe redirects or learning opportunities.
Yeah, and that fits really nicely with the growth mindset idea, doesn't it? Believing things can change and improve with effort.
Absolutely. Seeing challenge is temporary, not permanent states.
Okay, so we have these mindsets, these beliefs.
Yeah.
But what about those, like, mental glitches we all have? Cognitive biases.
Ah, yes. The systematic ways our thinking can go off track. That Wikipedia list of cognitive biases gives a good overview. These are patterns where our judgment kind of deviates from pure logic or rationality.
And the tricky part is they often operate below our conscious awareness. We
Mhm.
don't even realize we're doing it.
Right. So recognizing them is step one. One big one that jumps out, especially for perseverance, is the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, that's a classic.
It's our tendency to, keep pouring resources, time, money, whatever into something just because we've already invested so much.
Even if, rationally, it makes no sense to continue.
Yeah, like forcing yourself to finish a movie you hate just because you paid for the ticket.
Exactly. It plays on our dislike of feeling like we've wasted something. That feeling of loss can be really powerful, more powerful sometimes than a clear look at the future.
It can definitely make it hard to quit something that just isn't working anymore, right? You feel stuck because of the past investment,
Absolutely. Then there are others, like optimism bias.
where we think bad things are less likely to happen to us.
Sort of, or we just generally underestimate challenges, which can be good for getting started.
Gives you the courage, maybe.
Yeah, but if you drastically underestimate the hurdles, you might get easily knocked off course when they inevitably show up.
And related is the overconfidence effect, maybe, overestimating our own skills.
Right, which could lead to not preparing properly or not asking for help when you should.
Hmm. So, knowing about these biases, it's like getting a map of potential mental pitfalls when you're trying to achieve something tough.
Precisely. Awareness lets you pause and ask, okay, is this decision rational or am I falling into one of these traps? It allows for more objective evaluation.
Okay, so sticking with something isn't always good if it's just sunk cost talking. And that brings us to this grit-based article. Why quitting isn't the same as giving up.
Ah, this is a really crucial distinction.
Yeah, it argues that quitting can actually be a strategic choice, an intentional decision to stop doing something that maybe isn't serving your purpose anymore.
So you can redirect your energy to something better. It reframes quitting away from just failure.
Exactly. It's presented as potentially a positive, proactive move.
The key being the intention behind it.
Right. Because on the flip side, the article describes giving up as stopping effort because you've lost motivation or you're discouraged.
Even if you still actually want the goal.
Yeah. That feels more like passive surrender. Just running out of steam.
That makes sense. Quitting is an active choice based on changing circumstances or priorities, while giving up might be more about hitting a wall and not having the tools or maybe the mindset to get over it.
So ending something isn't automatically failure. Sometimes it's a smart pivot.
It really comes down to aligning your actions with what currently matters most to you, even if that means letting go of a previous commitment. Giving up, though, often links back to a lack of, well, resilience.
And resilience. That's the final piece here, mentioned by the Institute of Leadership. It's basically that ability to bounce back when things get tough.
Yeah, navigating adversity and keeping going towards meaningful goals.
It feels like resilience kind of ties all these threads together, doesn't it?
It really does. Think about it.
Yeah.
A growth mindset, believing you can learn and adapt, that fuels resilience, right? Being able to manage discouragement, like the Joyce Meyer article suggests, keeping that positive outlook, that's a huge part of being resilient.
Okay.
And being aware of those cognitive biases helps you make clearer, more rational decisions when you're under pressure.
Right. Avoiding traps like sunk costs.
And understanding that difference between strategic quitting and just giving up allows you to adapt your path without feeling like a failure. It's all part of bouncing back effectively.
So, okay, let's try to synthesize this for someone
Yeah.
listening. As we've gone through these different ideas, several key themes pop out for dealing with your own challenges.
Yeah, the first big one seems to be about your core beliefs, how you fundamentally see obstacles. Are they immovable walls, or are they things you can potentially navigate or learn from?
That growth mindset idea, again, cultivating that belief in possibility, like we saw in the addiction study in the Faith article, that seems like a really powerful starting point.
Definitely. But then there's that double-edged sort of persistence.
Mm.
Sticking with it is great, often essential,
Mm.
but the sunk cost fallacy is a warning sign, isn't it?
For sure. Don't keep pouring energy into something just because you already have.
Knowing when to strategically quit, when something genuinely doesn't fit anymore, that's just as important as pushing through temporary difficulties. It requires discernment.
And that distinction between quitting and giving up, it really puts the focus on intention and self-awareness.
Yeah. Are you making a conscious choice for a new direction, maybe based on new information or changed values?
Or are you just kind of losing steam and letting go passively?
Being really honest with yourself about why you're stopping or changing course seems critical.
So ultimately, this thing, resilience, it's not like a fixed trait you're born with.
No, absolutely not. It's much more like a muscle or a set of skills that you can actively build and strengthen over time.
Oh.
Well, by doing the things we've talked about,
Mm.
understanding your own mindsets, actively working to manage discouragement, learning to spot those cognitive traps,
Like sunk costs or overconfidence.
right, and making really conscious decisions about, okay, do I push through this or is it time to make a strategic pivot?
Hmm.
Doing that consistently builds your capacity to handle challenges.
Okay, so a final thought for listeners to chew on.
Mm,
Think about a challenge you're facing right now. Could be big or small.
okay.
How might your underlying beliefs about that specific challenge be shaping how you're tackling it? Do you see it as fundamentally solvable or not?
That's a good question. And also, are there any sunk costs involved?
Hmm.
Any past investments making it hard to even consider changing your approach?
Yeah. And finally, are you approaching it with like intentionality, a clear sense of purpose and strategy? Or does it feel more like passive resignation, just hoping things get better?
Reflecting on those questions, that can be a really practical first step, a way to start building that resilience and moving towards your goals with, well, more intention.